Hello and welcome back to Rams Talk Podcast. We are here today after, I'd say, is a mixed week at Derby. I think the majority of the week's not been too great after a really disappointing defeat to Charlton Athletic. But we've turned it around, 3-0 win against, let's be honest, a pretty poor Port Vale side, but we still play them off the park all the same, which is great to see. And joining me today to talk about, I'd say both games, but it's going to be about Port Vale, isn't it? First off, we've got Adam Titley. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm very good. Much better after that win yesterday. Reinstalled the confidence back in me for the rest of the season. Here we go.
Yeah. Here we go, exactly. And we've also got Vic Singh. How are you, Vic?
Good evening, lads. Yeah, not too bad. Buzzing after another win. I think we needed it, to be honest. But yeah, let's get cracking straight into it.
Absolutely. We definitely did need it. And a face that's quite familiar on the podcast, been on a few times, Rob. But your company is a bit more well-known in Derby now. Rob Gregory from FanHub. How are you, Rob? And tell us all about the new deal.
Yeah, good. And thanks for having me on, Jake. Superb to be partnering with the club, to be rewarding Rams fans. Some really exciting stuff coming from FanHub onto the app. I can't wait for you guys to see it. I think you'll be surprised and excited to get involved. As a fan of Derby all my life, it's like an absolute dream to be partnering with the club. I can't tell you how proud I was yesterday. So yeah, over the moon. And Paul Wall wearing that bubble, that was just the absolute icing on the cake, like unbelievable.
No, I can imagine. It's it's good to see. I mean, all of us use the app, don't we? Usually getting about 4 out of 11 on our predictions with Derby every week. So yeah, it's good to see FanHub and Derby team up. But right, let's get right into it. And Adam, there's only one place we can start today, and that's talking about Derby's two wing backs. Now, they have two players that have been criticised a lot this season. Louis Sibley, obviously he had that breakthrough season where he was great. I don't think he's ever really rediscovered that form as much as he has before. And Joe Ward, since he's come in, I mean, we've been quite critical on here of him. I don't think he's hit the heights that we expected. Obviously, that first pre-season game against Matlock, he looked brilliant. And then he hasn't really shown that since. But both of them were fantastic yesterday. 2 goals, maybe, for Sibley. Still not sure about that first one, but we can let him have it. And 2 assists for Joe Ward as well. How impressed were you with Derby's wing-back?
Yeah, I think I was really impressed. And I think yesterday their quality is what got us the goals at the end of the day, really. I mean, they put in superb performances. I think before the game, I was quite nervous. After the Charlton and Barnsley result, I was a little bit nervous about how we were going to play. I could just see it panning out being a 2-1 loss, same as last season. But thankfully, Joe Ward, I mean, that's his best game in the Derby County shirt, isn't it, so far? And hopefully he's going to hit form with the remaining 10 games to go, because we've seen how good he can be, and his crosses into the box are second to none. They're inch perfect, and there's not many other players in the team who can rival him when putting balls into the box that good at pace. And he seemed to beat his man every time he ran at him, which isn't something we've seen from Joe Ward yet. And then Louis Sibley. I think every Derby County fan, even the ones who criticise him the most, secretly love him a little bit. You can't not love a player who's come through and supports the club, and he was trying his best. And then yesterday to get the 2 goals, I mean, it's great that he keeps adding to his tally, and hopefully he can continue to grow into that role, because it's such a weird transition from attacking midfielder to left back. Sort of like how most Sunday League careers go, really, isn't it? I think we all started up front and then ended up in the fullback positions. Come the end of it, I definitely mine did. That's how mine went. So yeah, it was brilliant yesterday, and their quality was second to none, and Port Vale couldn't handle it at the day.
Yeah, you've already talked my ear off enough times about your 10-goal season. Was it 10 goals at Winsell when you were like
11 goals, mate?
11 goals. Wow, and now you're at right back. So yeah, it does kind of make sense. One of the things Adam said there, Vic, is he's talking about Joe Ward's delivery, and ironically, his delivery for Sibley's first goal was rubbish. He was trying to find Dwight Gayle in the box, completely mishit it, and it just happens to fall to Louis Sibley. But what Joe Ward does offer is he will always put balls into the box. And even if it's not exactly where it needs to go, the bend, the swerve, the curl he gets on it always makes defenders sort of panic a little bit. It was his best game, as Adam said, in a Derby shirt. Can he grow from here?
I think he should. I mean, I think what he needs is a run of games in the side. I think we saw him, his last good game before that was Charlton away. I thought he was brilliant that day as well. He seems to have a bit of a period where he comes into the side, has a brilliant performance, and then he's out again. I'd like to see hopefully get a bit of consistency in the side. I was actually quite surprised he was in the starting 11. If I'm honest, I didn't actually consider him. If I'm being truthful, but goes to show what I know. But Joe Ward, he really impressed yesterday. I'm pleased to see him have a good game because I think we've been waiting for that sort of Joe Ward performance all season. So, especially with the business end here, the running now well and truly on. We needed the points. It's good to see players come in and just slot straight in. Again, another mention for Sibley as well. Can we just change him to left wing back now? Change his position. He's just much better there than he is anywhere else on the pitch. And he's probably a ready-made replacement for when Forsyth retires as well. But yeah, long may Joe Ward's good form continue.
I've seen so many people on Twitter stealing that, by the way, Vic.
Mate, I'm trademarking it now, I'm telling you.
You're definitely going to have to. And Damo McDermott said in the comments it was an own goal. You're wrong, Damo. It was a pinpoint finish from Sibley into the bottom corner. But Rob, I mean, as Adam said already, everyone wants to see Louis Sibley succeed, even those that have been critical of him, because he is a lad. He's local. He's come through the academy. I think he was 8 or 9 or something like that when he joined Derby's academy. And here he is playing in the first team in his early 20s. As Vic says there, his left wing back seems to be his position. He seems to have found a home there. He looks comfortable, even though he's not the best defensively all the time. He still puts in good performances. How impressed were you with him, and can you see him keeping that up?
I mean, there's that famous tweet where someone compares him with Bellingham, isn't it, at the start, which always tickles me because he always comes back to it, whoever the guy is who kind of put it out. But I was impressed with him yesterday. His tenacity is superb. His attitude's superb. And he's a real Paul Warren player. I'm surprised he's not had I know he gets a lot of game time recently, but he's not always been first choice on the team sheet for him. I do think left wing back is his strongest position at the moment. I do sometimes think he's quite good in behind the striker. He offers something going forward, certainly. And he's got a decent pop shot on him. He's got goals in him, which we need to contribute, especially at the moment without a recognised. Well, Dwight Gayle's arrived, but without a recognised striker at the moment, James Collins. I think he's definitely cemented that place. It'd be interesting when Forsyth's fit, whether he comes straight back in or what happens. Obviously, he's playing about with the back line, and no doubt they'll all be needed at some point. We seem to be really unlucky with injuries this season, so it's just good that we've got options that we feel confident with, certainly at the back, I think.
Yeah, it definitely is. And, Adam, Paul Warren said in his post-match press conference, it's good to have the right headaches, isn't it? When you've got so many players that are in semi-decent form, at least, fighting for the same positions, it can only be a good thing. And, Rob's mentioned there, talking about Louis Sibley's, I mean, he called it pot shots there, but Sibley's second goal, he took like a goal scorer, a proper proven striker. Ward's ball hung up to the far post, takes a touch and thunders a half volley into the top corner. I mean, we've said a lot, haven't we, over the last couple of years? Can Sibley back up his performances with more performances? And I'd say that, in 3 home games, he's really, stood up and performed in 2 of them. So, I mean, I said to Rob, do you think he can keep it up? Do you think he can keep it up?
I think so, maybe this season. Taking things into consideration, he's starting to hit form. That left back spot, or left wing back spot, he can almost solidify as his own. With Forsyth being out injured, he can really make that his own. I know we like to chop and change at times with rotating players, but that left wing back spot, I would say, I think it's up for contention really for Louis Sibley to make it his own for the remainder of the season. So hopefully he can. He's starting to back it up with goals as well. And I mean, 2 goals from almost left back, left wing back is superb in itself in one game. So hopefully he can. I think that's 4 goals for him now this season so far, I would say, I think. And hopefully he can add a couple more. And because that'll be really helpful in the running. And with 10 games to go, like I say, we need players to hit form. We need players to be able to hold down those positions. It's good to have good headaches about team selection, but you also want players to be hitting bang on form. Now with 10 games to go, you don't want to get too lost in the crazy running that will come in and trying too much tactically. You just almost want to continue your style and hopefully continue the good form of results that we know we can get.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you talk about style there, Vic. We've been really critical on here. I think Derby fans on social media have been critical as well about Derby constantly playing a back 5. And I think when we've played it, it has been a back 5, 3 centre backs and basically 2 full backs. And Derby just haven't had that creativity going down the line. We've always sort of looked one-dimensional. We've not had any angles to play off, especially when we play the likes of Nyambi, who is a brilliant defender. But when you play him at wing-back, you've basically got another centre-back playing. And then Joe Ward and Louis Sibley have come in. Obviously, Ward was a winger that's transitioned to a wing-back. Sibley's an attacking midfielder that's transitioned to a wing-back. It became a back three. And all of a sudden, Derby looked much more confident. They looked much more attacking. Do you think we need to stay with this back three system, keep having our wide players sit further up the pitch, or do you think it was just a one-off because Port Vale weren't a great side?
I think it was probably a one-off because Port Vale were pretty awful yesterday. But I'd like to see it going forward. I just think with that youth and that exuberance on either wing-back, I think going forward, if this is what Paul wants football is all about, is to trying to get those wingers down the line, get the balls into the box. You got two perfectly good players, more than capable of doing it. Joe Ward, we know with his delivery, he's a dead ball specialist, and he literally anytime he pings that ball, it's going to find someone or it's going to go across the danger zone. The same with Sibley. Like we said, he's naturally left-footed, so it makes sense for him to cross it in with his left or cut in inside and take that shot like he did for the second goal. So I'd like to see it continue as long as they're playing the wing back role, because with the back three again, you got Sonny Bradley, Cashin, and Nelson. You've got your safety net there. Ibu, if he needs to, he can drop back there as well. So yeah, we need to be more progressive. Like we said, we're in the business end of the season now. Every game counts, every attack counts. So we need to score a lot of goals, get the points on the board, and if we really want to be in that top two position come end of the season, this is where your money's earned now. So hopefully we can see this going forward. And yeah, I just want to see it. I don't want to say long may it continue anymore, but I just want to see this good form keep continuing. Let Sibley and Ward run riot.
I prefer long may it continue to that, Vic. I think it flows a lot better.
It's a bit of a stumble then when it's like, oh. But no. Hopefully they can keep going. They keep the good form up. Like we said, it's the business end of the season now. Everything counts.
Yeah, it certainly does. I'm just looking at some of the comments here as well. Jim Johnson's got one. Connor Ripley, 2 visits to Pride Park, 8 goals conceded. Yeah, not a great record for him. We've got Roland Hobbs and Adam Lilly, who are both talking about Joe Ward. Roland says Joe Ward has to start the next game, offers a little bit different. Adam talks about as well, Sibley, Ward, Bradley have been written off and they've come in with some good performances, which is also true. I've got a question for you, Rob, based on a comment from Stefan Broom. And Stefan says, we have more energy without Hurahan, which I agree with, but he prefers 4 at the back with 3 in midfield. He drops Sonny Bradley, which is harsh. But Nelson and Cashin look good together in the middle. And then you'd have Bird, Ibu and Thompson in the middle. I mean, taking the players out of it that have just been mentioned, we've talked a lot about, back 3, back 5, back 4. What system's your favourite and which do you think Derby should play and which do you think Derby will play?
Without sitting on the fence, I think I'd probably switch between depending on the opposition. Port Vale were poor yesterday, weren't they? I thought they had that little spell in the kind of second half of the first half, if you want, but they were pretty poor. I think when we're playing Bolton and Portsmouth, it's going to be a different kind of fish. I think Paul Warne is obviously wants his normal formation that he's brought from Rotherham, which is the 3. He's always been more comfortable with that. But Nelson and Cashin have looked superb all season, really. And then obviously you look at the Charlton game and some of those goals that went in the week, and you can't help but feel that you'd feel safer as a fan with Nelson and Cash there. But Bradley has done well on the whole, and I'm contradicting what you said about Charlton, but again, it's harsh to drop him. I think if you're asking me if we're in the playoff final, I'm probably going 4 with Nelson and Cash. That's what I'd want to see. But I also think maybe based on what we're saying about Joe Ward and Sibley, there's definitely credibility when we're playing the lesser sides to have the wing backs. We're playing this direct football that Ward likes. And I've got to be honest, it's not always been my favourite this season. But as we get to the business end, it is about. Surely
you're the only one, Rob.
It is about the results, though, as we've said. So, we've got to get over the line somehow. And when you're playing direct, you really like the goals yesterday. They come from simple football and crosses into the box, and that's ultimately if we're getting those 2 lads on the pitch and we can get it to them and get the balls into the box, we're going to have create chances because they're the best deliverers of a ball in there. And like Sibley's goal, the 3rd one, he's coming at the back post, he's creating chances for himself and the ball from the other side. So to answer your question, I'd want 4. If we're playing a better side, I think I'd want 5 if we're playing a weak side. Back.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think there's a lot to go off, isn't there? I mean, I was thinking then as you were speaking, Rob, obviously playing a 4, we can't play Joe Ward at right back, for example, because that's just not his position. And Sibley at left back would be difficult as well. So again, I want more players in midfield, but we don't seem to do that. So I think everyone has its positives and negatives, doesn't it? I think with a full squad, I completely agree with you, Rob. I think a back 4 is the way forward. I think it just gives us a little bit more going forwards, but at the same time, yeah, you've got to look at the players we have available and the 2 wing backs. I mean, obviously it's recency bias because it was quite literally yesterday and they were very good. But yeah, at the same time, it's a good problem to have. It's a good problem to have.
He alluded to it, didn't he? Paul One alluded to that, and he said there's positive and negatives to both situations. I think he acknowledges that, but you just get the feeling his default is to go back to his 3 at the back. That's what he feels most comfortable with.
Yeah,
never
in doubt. Yeah, no, I agree. And right, we've somehow gone 15 minutes without mentioning his name, Adam, but Dwight Gayle. Now, when he signed, there was quite a lot of fanfare. People were very excited about it. Obviously, a player that's had a good career in the Premier League. He's had a great career in the Championship. I mean, if you ignore Stoke, which is where players go to die at the minute, when he played for West Brom, when he played for Newcastle in the Championship, he was excellent, scored over 20 goals. And he showed yesterday exactly why. 1 chance, 1 goal. Took it brilliantly. I mean, Ebu Adams, people have been saying it's a great cross. I thought it was a rubbish cross. It was miles behind him. And somehow he's managed to turn it around and nod it into the near corner. Now, we've seen a bit of his movement. We've had a little bit of a taste of what sort of player he is away at Barnsley and at Charlton. He didn't get really any chances in either of those games, but he's been given one and he scored it. I mean, Adam, how impressed have you been with Dwight Gayle so far?
Well, I think it was best to judge him off yesterday's game. Like you say, he didn't really get a chance in either of the games. 10 minutes at the back end of Barnsley in that game. And then obviously Charlton was a tricky one. But yeah, I thought yesterday was exactly what we wanted, isn't it? Someone to finish those chances and to lead and spearhead that attack and be the focal point. And thankfully we had that. And I think that was the biggest difference for me between obviously Port Vale at home and then Charlton at home and also Barnsley away, was that we struggled when going forward because we like to play it out wide and get it into the box, and we didn't really seem to have anyone for that final ball to land onto in those 2 games, especially Barnsley. So I thought Dwight Gayle put in a good performance. I mean, one of the smaller people on the pitch, and he managed to get on the end of a cross for a header, which is always nice to see. And yeah, I think we're going to see a few more goals with his feet as well. I think as long as we played it quite in the air, I thought, with the crosses in yesterday's game. And I think Dwight Gayle will add that difference in terms of if and when we do go down the middle, he'll be really effective.
Yeah, I agree. And to be honest, it's controversial. I think I put it in the description of this episode, actually. But I think already Dwight Gayle is our best number 9 at the club, because I think his intelligence is miles ahead of any other player we have. You can tell he's played at a high level. You can tell he's had a career in the Premier League. You know, that moment where he scored 2 goals against Liverpool to end their title challenge. I know it was a long time ago, but a player with those moments and a player with that career is going to be so smart. I mean, we said it with Conor Hourihane, didn't we? We were like, Hourihane, Premier League quality. He only played in the Premier League for 1 or 2 seasons. Dwight Gayle played in the Premier League for 5 or 6. And you can tell because he's just a yard ahead in his head. And he's still quick over 2 or 3 yards as well, which I've been impressed with. And I guess that's the question for you, Vic. You know, we've seen already, I think he presses really, really effectively. He presses when he knows he'll win the ball. And I think it makes a huge difference having him up there. The tricks, the flicks against Charlton. Obviously, he put Max Bird through, and Bird decided he didn't fancy us scoring at that point and miss it his pass to Mendes Lang. But he just offers something that we've not had since a certain striker of last season, doesn't he?
I'm glad you made that comparison because I was about to do the same thing. Yeah, I mean, it's nice to have that the David McGoldrick sort of replacement. I think we were crying out for it at the close season when he'd gone. But Dwight Gayle offers a little bit more than him. I mean, like you said, he's still quick over 2-3 yards. You know, he's still got that pace there. Okay, maybe he's not as youthful and exuberant as he was before, but he's still there. Like you said, he's probably our best number 9 at the club at the minute. Natural finish yesterday, and I think there's more to come from him. So I'm really excited to see what he'll bring to this side. Like we said, there's 10 games to go. The potential of Collins coming back as well. I mean, I'm quite excited to see both of them play up top together, if I'm honest. I think that could work. If we were still going to persist with that 3-5-2, a Collins and Gayle partnership could end up winning the league. Don't quote me on that. Yeah, no, Gale's been really good. Like you said, his intelligence on and off the ball is brilliant. His movement is spot on, and he really runs himself to the ground as well. I think at the end of like the 65th, 70th minute when he did come off, he was shattered, and that's all you want from a player, is to give everything. And hopefully, with him up there now and the option of Collins coming back, hopefully we've got squad depth now. I think that will carry us over the line. But I'm really impressed with Dwight Gayle, and I'm sure there's more goals to come from him.
An interesting point, Rob, that Vic just made there about playing Gayle and Collins up front. And now there's quite a few comments about it already. I'm not sure I agree with that, because I think they're both similar players. You know, we talked about Bird and Hurahan in midfield, both trying to play the same role and do the same thing. I think Gayle and Collins would end up in the same boat, where they're both sort of trying to peel off the last man, make that run into the box. And I don't know. I feel like, I know it's annoying having Mendes-Lang up front. I don't think we get the best out of him when we play it. But at the same time, I think you've got to have a bit of variability up top. It's like when we played Waghorn and Collins up front, for example. I thought they were two players basically trying to do the same thing. I don't think it really works. But I could also know nothing about football. So it's a tough one. But Rob, I just want to ask you your opinion on it. What do you reckon to potentially playing Collins and Gayle up front when Collins returns?
I mean, will he return? Will he return for this season? Do you think? That's the first question to ask, because hopefully we'll get that opportunity, maybe in the playoffs.
No, don't say that.
But I guess the more pressing one's probably does Waghorn play up front with him, because that could be something that happens pretty quickly. I think Connor Washington's not going to be back, is he, anytime soon, so it's likely to be those two, if anything. And I think Dwight Gayle will complement anyone. I think when you watched him yesterday, as you've all said, he's just a yard in front. He's quick, and I was just watching him for a short time on his own, and he's really vocal amongst the players. You could see he was kind of putting himself about and making his voice heard, shouting at one or two. I could see that, and his head is superb, by the way. The way he hangs in the air, and just it's not powerful, but he just knows exactly what to do. The timing's impeccable. So I was really, really impressed with him the first time I've seen him live. I think he could play up front with any of the ones we've got and complement them. I think the other three that we've got are pretty similar. Like you just said, Jake, I don't think either of those two go together very well at all, because there's no real pace there. Offer quite similar things in terms of, back to goal, holding the ball up, but not so much in behind. Whereas I think Vic just said he's still got that yard of pace. He could still play channel balls into Gayle and get some benefit there. So I think, yeah, it's exciting to think that he could play up front with one of the others, particularly as we're chasing games towards the end of the season and needing to get wins if we're behind in games. So definitely positive about Gayle and the signing of him.
Yeah, absolutely, completely agree. I think he's been a really positive sign. I think, we were really worried, weren't we, when Collins was ruled out, but it could end up being a little bit of a blessing in disguise, because, I mean, if Gayle can keep playing like this and keep scoring goals, I don't see why, whatever league we're in next season, we wouldn't give him another chance, because he's not earning massive amounts, I'm pretty sure, at Derby at his stage of his career, and with the intelligence that he's got, he can only be an asset, can't he, as well?
Got to give a nod to James Collins as well. I was his biggest critic. And if we do go up this season or do anything, he deserves a humongous amount of credit for what he's done in his contribution. He's been head and shoulders better than he was last season, in my opinion. His work rate and just everything he's brought to the team, I think he's kind of summed up our season. It's not been the prettiest, it's not great, but we are where we are. We were in with a chance for promotion. So, yeah, definitely huge credit and kudos to him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure he definitely won't be forgotten at the end, especially if we end up getting promoted to the Championship. We've got a couple of comments as well. Stefan Broom saying Gale's link-up play is overlooked. Clever player, a little bit like that striker from last season, whose name I won't say because we say it way too many times on this podcast. We've got Stacey who says Dwight stays on side. Poor James Collins. I'm sure he'll be very upset seeing that. And then, more comments. Ben Chambers saying Gale's link-up play is better than James Collins. But again, it's good to have those options, isn't it? When Collins is back, Washington will be back sooner than well, it was said on Tuesday by Paul Warne. He's on his way back from an ankle injury, and obviously Waghorn's back as well, which is really great. But talking of Tuesday, Adam, we do have to mention it a little bit. We have a tendency on here when we play a Tuesday game and then a Saturday game to just forget the Tuesday game ever happened. We're very good at that. But we do have to talk about it. I mean, I think it was night and day, Tuesday and Saturday, because Tuesday, Charlton, we get the goal, great header, Aaron Cash in, near post. And then we sat back and then we tried to defend and we tried to soak up pressure against a Charlton team that weren't really high on confidence. and we the slightest. I think I disappeared for a second then, didn't I?
A little bit, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's fine. Right. I don't know what I'd said, but yeah. So Charlton, long ball over the top, and we just opened ourselves up to it. Joe Wildsmith makes a silly mistake, but we played into their hands. And even though they were low on confidence, we didn't help ourselves, and they ended up benefiting from it, and they ended up turning the game on its head and winning the game. Whereas on Saturday, we scored the goal and we kept going. We kept pushing. We didn't slow the game down. We kept fighting and we ended up getting a comfortable win. I mean, Adam, it's really important that we keep doing that, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest differences in terms of performance on Saturday from maybe the majority of this season, I would say, is that we went for more goals. I think everybody can guess that when we go a goal up, we're thinking probably going to sit back now and try and defend this lead and invite pressure onto us. And we've done it time and time again this season. Sometimes it's worked. You look at Charlton away, we won 1-0 there. I think that was a good example of where it did work. We limited them to little to nothing. But then there's also been games where it hasn't worked and we've taken the lead and dropped points. And I would say, I've mentioned this game numerous times, but it was the epitome of this sort of football was Bristol Rovers away last season. 1-0 up 5 minutes in and then sat back and could have very easily lost it and took a point. But I think Saturday's performance was a lot different. I thought we pressed for more goals, and obviously Charlton at home we didn't do that. But then, like you say, night and day, we did push for goals on Saturday, and thankfully we scored a couple because of the quality performances that Sibley and Joe Ward put in. And I think it's important that we do continue to push for more goals because we've got goals in this team. Players such as Mendes Lang, Dwight Gayle, who we brought in, Max Bird's popping up with a few goals at the moment. Obviously, Louis Sibley's looking to add his 5th. And I think it's important that we still continue to push for them because I think it's become far too common for Derby to sit back in games this season and invite pressure onto us. And it's more often than not made us come unstuck, really, and drop points. And like I keep saying, these final 10 games to go, you really need to be putting the goals in the back of the net and keep in form. So hopefully we can continue to do that. I think the big question of whether we can still do that is when we play Bolton at home in a couple of weeks in that massive game that we've all got one eye on and all very nervous about. So let's see how we play in that one. But yeah, like you said, the difference between performances in Charlton and obviously at home against Port Vale and yesterday was massive and definitely a positive reaction.
Yeah, and it was exactly what we needed, wasn't it, Vic? Because you could see against Charlton, the players' confidence took a massive knock. They seemed reluctant to even pass to each other at times, which, when you're a team in second in the league, you expect to sort of, even when you suffer a setback, you've got to bounce back and take the game by the scruff of the neck when you get the opportunity. And we didn't really do that. But on Saturday, we showed a little bit of character, even though Port Vale had spells where they were on top and we made a couple of shaky mistakes as well. We always bounced back and we always showed, like I said, that character to stay in the game and eventually win the game quite comfortably. I mean, can you see that continuing? I mean, just looking at our running, obviously we've got Bristol Rovers, which we'll talk about later on. And then we've got Reading and Bolton at home, which are going to be 2 massive, massive games. What do you think?
Oh, you just put me off then. I don't remember your question. What was your question again? Sorry.
Shocking behaviour, that is.
I know.
Can we keep this character up? Do you believe this Derby team's got the right mentality?
I think if we keep playing round pegs in round holes, and yeah, we've got the right mentality. Again, we've got to look at each individual opposition and where our strengths lie. Like, for example, you said we've got to play Bolton in a few weeks. We know that if Dion Charles is fit and if some of their strikers are fit, then we know that we've got problems on our hands and maybe we probably will see a back 5 potentially. But yeah, like I said, you've got to take the positives out of yesterday's game. I think they did well to come back from the defeat at Charlton. I think the defeat at Charlton stung a lot of people, fans and players included, because it was just one that I say we didn't expect, but then you knew as we sat back more and more, it was inevitable that these goals are going to come. I think we're in a position now where I think we're going to have to start scoring more than the opposition, regardless of how our style is. We can't afford to get a goal lead and just sit back. We know
I just said to help Vic.
Yeah, but it's a bit like it's a bit like how Lampard played in that season. It was just we're going to outscore the opposition. I think that's what we need to do going forward now. But yeah, we've got the mentality, we've got the character. There's plenty of leaders in that in that dressing room there. Plenty of leaders on the pitch. Why not? And don't forget, we've got to play Pompey as well away, and that's going to be an even tougher game. So
tougher for the fans as well. Putting on a Tuesday night, which I completely agree, Vic. It's stupid, isn't it? It's stupid, but that's Sky Sports for you, as we've seen. But Rob, I mean, we talked a lot about mentality. So I've just seen Jim Johnson's comment saying Waghorn's a better defender than striker at the moment. Ask Max Bird. What a block from Waghorn towards the end of the game. Poor Max Bird thought he'd scored. But the mentality thing, I think we talked about it a lot over the last 2 years. Can Derby be nastier? Can Derby be more aggressive? Ebu Adams has brought that instantly because he's willing to jump kick anyone that comes near him. I've seen that picture of when him and that bloke ended up having a scrap in the second half and played carried on. Didn't really understand what the ref was thinking with that one. But there was a moment as well where Sonny Bradley, we had a corner towards the end of the first half, and Sonny Bradley, the keeper, was sort of in the middle, and he walked to the back post, picked up the keeper's water bottle, took the lid off, poured it all out onto the floor and threw it back in the goal. Now, I was right in front of the North stand, and me and my brother saw it, we were like, what? But I mean, that mentality, we are a nastier team now, or a more aggressive team, that's got to play a big part, hasn't it?
We're going to need that for sure. I think, as I've said earlier in different answers to your questions, from a fan's point of view, I don't think anyone's looking at this football saying it's sexy. That's for sure. We're not, having been used to Rossini and before that, Cocu, Lampard, and the kind of football we're used to. It's a completely different approach. It's pragmatic. What many people say you need to get out of this league, I'm not necessarily sure. I don't think Ipswich got out of there playing the kind of football we're playing. I think there is another way, but I'm bought into it now. At the end of the day, you can be two ways as a fan. You can keep moaning about it, or you can just get behind them. And it's much better to try and buy into what you're doing and just kind of see it through. At the end of the day, this could be a promotion for many of us. We haven't seen many of them in our lifetime. So I'm still very hopeful that, eventually when we get a bit nearer the end, if we're where we are, that the fan base will unite behind him. We're certainly a nastier side than at the start of the season, I think, when you think of those first two games at home against Oxford and Wigan, and we kind of just let them roll us over, really, with quality and attitude. We don't seem to get those anymore, although you look at Charlton and think, what really happened there? I don't think anyone can analyse that game and make much sense of it. It was just poor. And I suppose you do get a stinker every now and again. Barnsley was different. It wasn't really like that. So you're going to lose games against the sides around you. But hopefully the Charlton ones are one-off and we won't get any more of them. If we lose to Portsmouth or Bolton, it's probably going to be on merit. But fingers crossed, if we could, let's say we get 3 points on Saturday and then we manage to beat both of them, the momentum's completely with us at that point. You'd say we're probably going to be strong favourites to get promoted and the fan base is going to be in a much better position going into that home run. So, yeah, I'm more positive than probably I was a bit earlier on in the season.
Well, you'd have to hope so. I mean, I've got the league table up in front of me. Portsmouth top, 36 played, 76 points. I think they're up. I think they're going to be fine. But if you look at the teams underneath, you've got Derby, 36 played, 69 points. Bolton, 35 played, 69 points. Barnsley, 34 played, 66 points. Now, Barnsley and Bolton obviously have to play each other. That's both of their games in hand as well. So at least one of them will drop points in that one. I think every Derby fan sat there hoping for a draw. I think that would probably be the most beneficial overall. But, I mean, it's really, really tight up at the top. You've got to have a little bit of faith. But we've seen it, Adam. We've seen it recently, right? Pride Park's atmosphere. How many times have we talked about it being rubbish? Because for the majority of the season, it has. Even when we're winning games, it's been rubbish. It's been quiet. It's been silent. But the last 2 games, I think, or 3 games, I think it's been much better. And I think it's made a huge impact on the players as well. You can see what it brings to them. Even when we'll win a corner and there's that roar from the crowds and, Louis Sibley or Joe Ward are running to the corner to put the ball into the box. It just gives them that extra lift. And it's definitely made a difference, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's huge. And I think, this might be a bit off topic, but we talked about Barnsley's tactical now to switch ends. But I think also was playing towards South Stand the second halves helps a hell of a lot in terms of the atmosphere. Obviously, I know most people associate with the South Stand with the area which generates the atmosphere, and playing towards it in that second half, it's definitely almost like the stand sucking the ball into the net sometimes when the atmosphere can be lifted. So I think it has definitely helped. I think Stevenage was the clear example of that when the atmosphere was superb at the end. And then obviously yesterday I think it helped get that third goal on for Derby to keep pushing. As long as we keep creating chances, I'm sure the atmosphere will continue to grow and get better, because that's what the fans want, isn't it? You know, just a little bit of excitement here and there, something to get behind. Because I think, you know, when we spoke about Derby sitting back on Leeds, I think that almost calms down the atmosphere a little bit. It creates a little bit of nerves, similar to the players on the pitch. But, you know, when we do try something, even if it doesn't come off, it excites the fans a little bit more. And we've got a couple of players who can do that. Kane Wilson with his footwork, Joe Ward with his crosses into the box. It adds that extra little bit of excitement. So I think, yeah, the atmosphere is going to continue to build, especially with these 10 games to go. You know, usually when Derby have been the underdogs in these situations, then the atmosphere has been superb. I think now, more eyes are on us, really, than what we're used to, sitting second in the division. So yeah, I think the atmosphere is going to continue to build, and hopefully we have a few more exciting games in there, a couple of more high-scoring games. You know, I think some fans might not agree with me, but I don't mind if we're 3-0 up and a side gets a goal and it just generates that atmosphere a little bit more. I'm all for that, and I'm all for the end of the game excitement. As long as we don't lose, it costs us, but as long as it just heightens that atmosphere a little bit more, then I'm all for it.
There we go. You heard it here. Adam hopes we concede, so it makes us louder. So keep that in mind if any Derby players are listening. Or Paul Warne gets someone to put it in the net. And I get your point. But I mean, Vic, you know, Adam's talked about it there. The atmosphere sucking the ball into the net. It does make a big difference. And I think one of the things that does do it is, I think we're kind of the underdogs a little bit now. It's weird saying that because, again, being bitterly delusional, we are the biggest team in the league, aren't we? Realistically, even though that means absolutely nothing, we are the biggest team in the league. And we've lost that cup final against Barnsley, which has obviously given them a big lift and probably put them in pole position with the running that they've got and the form that they're in. Bolton as well, obviously, have had games in hand on us for what seems like about 6 years. And they've been closing on us as well. Obviously, heavy promotion favourites. I think out of the 4 teams sort of battling at the top, I think Derby are probably on paper 4th favourites with, you know, the form that we have, the way that we play, especially. And I think that might actually help us a little bit because it's given the crowd a little bit of a lift. You know, we have to win. We've got 10 games left. We have to win every game if we want to be up there. Even if we lose a game, we have to win the next one. We have to win the next one. And you can feel it in the ground, you know, especially when that first goal went in, Sibley's screamer, which took 8 deflections and went in. You know, even though it was one of the worst goals I've ever seen, the atmosphere was amazing. And you could really feel it sort of giving the players a boost. Do you think now we're sort of getting into that business end, fans are willing to forgo the football that we're playing because we really just need that ball in the back of the net?
I think so, yeah, and I think it's that prospect of promotion. It's literally like within touching distance now, and I think the fans know that if we can give our all, give the support in the stands, it will reflect on the pitch as well. And I think, to be fair, I think we're starting to see at the Port Vale game we were a lot more attacking. The atmosphere was better. Also, credit to the boys in the southwest corner. They're generating a lot of noise up there, and it's getting the south stand going. It's getting the east stand going. And we're sort of really creating a fortress at Pride Park now, and especially when most of I think out of the 10 remaining games, I think most of them are at home as well. It's going to be really important. Like you said, we moaned about the underdog mentality all season, but I think that's what's sort of spurring us on. Like I said, if we look at paper, we're probably 4th favourites to go up, but maybe it relieves the pressure off the lads as well, both on the pitch and in the stands. That if we just give it a go, give it everything, we'll see where it takes us. The carrot's dangling in front of us now, promotion, so hopefully we can go and clinch it. But as long as we keep doing what we're doing in the stands, the boys will keep doing it on the pitch. Like I said, we've got to win every game, so let's do what we can to push us over the line.
Exactly. Very wise, Vic. Has anyone ever told you that? You're a wise man.
Comes with age, mate. Comes with age.
You're in your early 30s.
I feel 50. I feel 50 watching this club.
I mean, you mentioned the fixtures there. We've got Bristol Rovers away, and then Reading at home, Bolton at home, Northampton away, which will undoubtedly be moved for the international break. Blackpool at home, Portsmouth away, Wickham away, Leyton Orient at home, Cambridge away, and Carlisle at home. So I think, yeah, There's just a few more home games than away games. And I mean, we've seen it all season, Rob. Our home form hasn't been great, but this is the time. If we're ever going to pick up our home form, now's the time to do it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you said I'm not allowed to swear, so I'll just say I'm nervous about Saturday. We're a Bristol company, and our co-founder is a huge Bristol Rovers fan, so I will not live it down if we lose down there. So I'm secretly nervous about that. Obviously, get past that, and then just the way the fixtures have fallen, because we then play the two big boys next back to back. I think that will be a make or breaker. I think it might, ultimately it's good. It could be a good thing for us. Like I said, if you've got the momentum then of getting even a draw and a win in one of those two games, you then go into a run of relatively not easy games, but winnable games to finish off the season. If we lose those two games, then all of a sudden it becomes like, is it going to be backs against the wall for the playoffs? I don't think we're going to drop out of that, but we certainly have, at least we've got a bit more time to get some momentum back for the playoffs. I think in terms of the home support, as I've said, and almost answer to every one of these questions, the football isn't fantastic. And as a fan, it's really difficult to kind of generate atmosphere around football that we're playing. There's no passage of play where we're completely on top, where you corner after corner where you're cheering them on. It's just so bitty and batty and scrappy that you're really having to work hard to generate the atmosphere. But like Vic said, I think the Southwest, the South Stand obviously are picking it up. I think everyone, as you go towards promotion, can see that kind of carrot dangling, as someone said earlier, and I think generally we're pulling together a little bit more than maybe we were sort of even 3 or 4 games ago. I go to quite a lot of the away games, and the atmosphere is always pretty good there. I think it's no secret why we've done better away from home, because generally we were able to stay with the team for longer, and there's a couple of shockers earlier in the season, but hopefully Pride Park's sort of warming to that, and that'll really do us a good turn towards the end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned Bristol Rovers there. Let's do a quick preview of that. So, obviously, we've got comments already about Chris Martin. Obviously, scored at Pride Park. He's been in incredible form. He's one of the top goal scorers in the division. Who'd have thought that? But they're looking a good side. They're looking a good side now, Bristol Rovers, different side to the one that we played earlier in the season. I think it's going to be a really tough test. It's going to be a really difficult game. And I don't know anymore. We're getting to that nervy part. What's that clip? Is it? I can't remember who it is. Thomas Skidder, where he's like, "Oh, don't get nervous." Well, I start to get a bit wee. That's how I feel at every Derby game at the minute. So, I mean, Adam, go on. Give us, if you're brave enough, give us a score prediction. Give us some goal scorers. Bristol, what are you thinking?
Like Vic said earlier, try and outscore the opposition. I'll go a 3-2 win. I think we're going to score 3 goals again. I think Chris Martin inevitably is going to get on the score sheet, but I'll go with the 3-2 win. Sort of just let it happen. We'll let the football play out, and maybe Sibley will be on the score sheet again, and hopefully Mendes Lang pops up with 2. That would be good.
That would be good. Vic, what do you reckon, mate?
I'm going to agree with Adam. I think it's going to be a goal fest. I think we'll win 3-2, just because my heart says so. But honestly, I'd take a point. But I think we'll win 3-2. I think on the score sheet we'll have Dwight Gayle with the brace and a Chris Martin own goal to give us the 3 points. That's what we want. Come on, Chrissy Martin, put it in the net for us.
That would certainly be something. And Rob, what do you reckon, mate?
Tough one. I mean, Chris Martin definitely upped his game for that home game. He was all over the place, elbows everywhere flying. He'll definitely be bang up for it. I just think we'll have too much for them. I know they've got quite a few injuries, people coming back. I think it could be 2-0. I think we could score both of them late on. It'll be quite cagey. We'll score one about 70 minutes. They'll go for it, and we'll get one on the break in the added time. That's what I'm going 2-0.
Oh, go on. Give us some goal scorers. Be brave.
Yeah, let's go for it. Let's go Mendes Lang first goal, Blackett-Taylor off the bench for the second one on the break.
That'd be good. Yeah, it'd be nice for Corey Blackett-Taylor to get his Derby. I was going to say stint. Derby. Can you call it that after like 3 games? His Derby career up and running. Let's say that. And yeah, I mean, Jim Johnson's also said 3-2, and he said that before you said it, Vic, as well. So it's interesting that 3 of you have gone for the same scoreline. He said Gayle ×2 and Bird, and I agree. I think it's going to be a classic goal hanger 2-1. I think it's going to be a really difficult game, probably similar to the first game. I think we'll score early, probably a corner, because we're good at those. Sonny Bradley will score again, because he's, top goal scorer now, hanging at that back post, bullet header. Adam's happy every time he sees him bury one in the back of the net. And the other goal, I think Joe Ward's going to score a free kick. I've just got a feeling we've not had a free kick goal in a while, apart from, we've obviously got Max Birds, but we've not had a right-footed free kick goal in a while. So yeah, it'd be good to get that. And Stefan's been really depressing and said 2-0 Bristol, which has lowered the mood slightly. But we're all positive. We all think that Derby are going to win. Whether they will is a different story. But let's hope we're leaving Bristol next week with a smile on our faces. So thank you so much for listening. If you did enjoy, please do like, subscribe, give us a rating. We've had loads of ratings recently on Spotify and Apple Pods, which is great. And they've all been 5-star, which is even better. So if you want to join those guys who are clearly really great people and rate us 5-star, that'd be really appreciated. And as always, you can check out our other content, discussion points on Twitter, and see our adventures on Instagram. So yeah, thank you so much for listening. Now, Rob, this is your first time since we've started doing this stupid thing of episodes, but thankfully you're at the end, so you'll know exactly what we're doing by the time it gets to you. So thank you very much for listening. Goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
The Rams are going up. Goodbye from me.
Up the Rams, up the fanhub.
You have to say goodbye from me, Rob. You have
Goodbye
to say
from me. Up the Rams.
Up the Rams. You heard the man. We'll see you next week, hopefully after 3 more points. Up the Rams.